This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org. I'm Amy Goodman. A manhunt's continuing in Rhode Island after a deadly mass shooting at Brown University left 2 students dead, 9 others injured. A person of interest had been detained but was released last night. In a statement on Sunday night, Brown officials said, quote, local police have advised they do not believe there's any immediate threat to Brown or the local community, unquote. The shooting occurred on Saturday shortly after 4 p.m. when a masked gunman opened fire inside a lecture hall filled with about 60 students. The campus was placed on lockdown as a manhunt began. 12 hours later, a suspect was detained near the Providence airport in a hotel. According to the Gun Violence Archive, there have been 391 mass shootings this year, including at least 75 school shootings. This is Edward Wu, a junior at Brown.
I think absolutely this is a huge wake-up call for everybody that has been affected and just everybody in the country in general. I think gun violence is a huge issue, and this is truly so tragic that we're seeing these events happen over and over again. And so I think something definitely needs to be done. What that may be, I think, is something to be figured out. It's obviously a very difficult situation. I truly hope that we can figure something out.
At least 2 students at Brown had survived school shootings when they were younger. This is 20-year-old Zoe Weissman. In 2018, she was in the middle school next to Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School, where a former student opened fire, killing 17 students in Parkland, Florida.
I have friends who survived the shooting in Oxford, at Oxford High School in Michigan, and then went on to Michigan State University and then survived the shooting there. So I already knew that this was something that could happen. But again, you always have this naive belief that like, oh, well, it won't happen to me. And obviously it has. And now there's more kids like myself who have been through 2 school shootings. And I think that's kind of just representative of the situation that the inaction of Congress has put us in.
We're joined now by 21-year-old Brown University junior Mia Tretta. In 2019, she was shot in the stomach during a school shooting in Saugus High School in Santa Clarita, California. Her best friend, Dominic Blackwell, was one of the 2 students who died in that attack. Mia has been an advocate to reduce gun violence ever since. She worked with Everytown for gun safety, later joined the advisory board of Students Demand Action. She's joining us now from Providence. Mia, our deepest condolences on what has happened to your community, the 2 dead students and the 9, most of whom are critically injured in the hospital. Can you talk about what took place at Brown?
Yeah, I thankfully was in my dorm at the time of the shooting. I was studying with a friend, but we got one text from another friend who wasn't there, basically saying there's an active shooter alarm going off in Barrison Holly, the engineering building. And pretty much as soon as we got that text, hundreds started rolling in. And they kind of didn't stop for the coming hours. I was there in my dorm from the time of the shooting, all throughout lockdown. The lockdown was lifted around 9 a.m. the next morning. And I was thankfully in my dorm where I had food and water and I had my own things, but I had friends who were in basements alone. I had friends all across campus in library hallways that they couldn't leave or stairwells. So it was just kind of a terrifying and confusing experience for everyone, especially when there was just kind of this lack of information. And when there's a lack of information, rumors start. And we felt a lot more security in our campus as soon as we found out that the shooter had been detained. But obviously that's not the case anymore. So now it's just kind of back to this state of confusion and uncertainty. Not sure if we're fully safe. There's just so much going on, and especially with the lockdown lasting so many hours.
Mia, I just want to thank you for coming on this broadcast. I can't imagine what you are going through and how this has triggered what you have gone through in the past. And I hate to do this, but I wanted to ask you to, since you've been so eloquent and brave over these last few years since you survived yet another mass shooting. This was when you were a freshman at Saugus High School in 2019. If you can talk about how you're doing right now through this. I assume you are just operating on adrenaline at this point. I mean, you're still in Providence. Even though school, right, has been canceled now, all classes, all tests, kids are just going home?
Yeah, I came to Brown as someone who was shot in the stomach at 15 years old. And when something as horrific and terrifying as a school shooting happens to you, you want to find as much sense of safety as possible. Because at least for me, it was, you know, my entire innocence, my childhood was taken from me by someone I didn't even know. And a big reason I chose Brown was because of the safety I felt on campus, the community I felt, the fact that Rhode Island is a blue state that, you know, values gun laws. All of these things are reasons I chose Brown. And there's this naive thought that it'll never be me, and something that I, of course, thought before my first shooting, and now kind of had to reassure myself that it will never happen again. But now, a shooting being right here, 2 blocks away at my school, within my community, this place that I've kind of come to feel safe, it's kind of mind-boggling. And unfortunately, we know that every single act of gun violence is 100% preventable. And this happened, and my shooting at Saugus High School happened because of decades and years of government inaction. And it's so unfortunate that so many people have to die for people to still not really care. There's obviously been, you know, action taken, and there's been so many powerful advocates across the country doing so much great work around gun violence prevention. But if we don't have legislators in office and administration that cares about children's safety over guns and the gun lobby, we're never going to be safe, and we're never going to be able to walk down the street and feel secure that we're not going to get shot and not make it home.
You know, anyone who experienced what you did as a freshman in high school could have just run away from all of this. You ran right towards it and took on this issue of gun violence. I was just reading a piece in the Brown Herald, a portrait of you, where you held you set up a lemonade stand. In 2 days, you raised $8,000. And then you went onto the national stage. I want to go back to 2022. What were you, 19 years old? When you spoke at the
18,
White House.
Yeah.
18. When you spoke at the White House along President Biden.
Ghost guns are untraceable, build-it-yourself firearms that look like a gun, shoot like a gun, and kill like a gun, but have not been regulated like a gun. I've also learned that as a student, I don't just have to worry about Spanish tests, but about my life. School shootings with ghost guns are on the rise. And the most lasting thing I have learned, other than the loss of friends or the shattering of my youth, is that nothing has relieved the pain in my heart like working to prevent more senseless shootings.
So, Mia, that's you when you were 18 at the White House talking about ghost guns. You keep saying every mass shooting is preventable. Explain, because so often the political leaders who are pro-gun say, do not politicize a mass shooting like Brown. It's just a tragedy. We offer our thoughts and prayers.
I mean, Brown is a tragedy. Every school shooting is a tragedy, and they should offer thoughts and prayers. But thoughts and prayers aren't enough, and thoughts and prayers don't bring back lives lost. They don't prevent more lives from being taken. We know that with more gun laws, gun crime and gun death goes down. Here in Rhode Island, we have some of the lowest gun crime in the entire United States, and that's evident of the great gun laws that exist. And unfortunately, we also know that when we have Republicans in office, gun crime goes up. We need people to see, you know, America is the only country that takes gun violence as this fact of life. And it makes no sense. It does not have to be. There's no world where walking down the street and being scared or sitting in a classroom and getting shot and killed is normal. This doesn't have to happen. Our politicians, we voted them into office, and their whole responsibility is to make sure that their people are safe and happy and healthy. None of those three things can exist when gun violence is constantly on the rise. Gun violence and gun death is the leading cause of death for children. That just does not make at all sense to me. And I feel like to most people, I've never heard someone say, I wish there was more gun violence. So why don't we do something about it?
Mia, you're sitting there in your brown sweatshirt. Again, you have survived a shooting in your stomach. How are you physically doing right now? And what are your plans in this last minute we have? School's out now. They've canceled it. They're looking for the gunman. What are you going to do?
Yeah, physically and emotionally, a school shooting takes your whole life and flips it upside down. I'm still healing from my physical injuries, and it will be a process that probably takes my entire life. Every single doctor's appointment, it is something else that has to come up, or even just if I'm getting something checked out that's completely irrelevant to what happened to me, they have to know I was shot in a school shooting. And with these, coming days, I'm going to Massachusetts, and then I'm flying home on Wednesday, which will be great to see my family. And then after winter break, I'm not entirely sure what campus will look like, what things will look like. Our student body needs
we have 10 seconds,
support
Mia.
and community more than anything else right now. And I just hope that we can all come together as much as possible.
Mia Tretta, I want to thank you so much for being with us. A junior at Brown University, longtime gun safety advocate. She herself survived a shooting from Saugus High School in Santa Clarita, California. All the best to you. I'm Amy Goodman. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for watching Democracy Now! On YouTube. Subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications to make sure you never miss a video. And for more of our audience-supported journalism, go to democracynow.org, where you can download our news app, sign up for our newsletter, subscribe to the daily podcast, and so much more.